So, how do you really finish a novel? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. It's so important for me to encourage others to cross that finish line, because once you cross that finish line once, it's so much easier to do it again, and it goes faster and faster and faster. So hey friends, if you're new here, my name is Taylor Sievers and I am an author. I write primarily fiction based in rural settings. I like to write characters with unique jobs or skills or salt of the earth characteristics. I've also been a freelance garden writer, and I write on Substack and my blogs and just various places. Here on this channel, I like to talk about different types of books that are specifically have some sort of rural or agricultural theme, or also review some gardening and growing guides as well. So I was raised in a farming family. We have a farm now. I just like to talk about things in that sphere of the world. So without further ado, let's get into it. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how do you actually finish a novel. Maybe some of you have began writing, or maybe some of you just have an idea and you haven't actually put pen to paper. Maybe some of you have words and pages filled in notebooks or Google Docs or Word documents on your computer that you just have never done anything with. Maybe some of you have actually published a few things online, whether in a blog form, or maybe you've written for an online publication or something like that. But maybe you're just having a really hard time finishing your book. You want to write a book and you're just having a hard time finishing, or you just don't see how people can get it all done. And so today I want to speak to you. I want to speak to those of you that are just having a hard time finishing, because I was in your shoes not very long ago. So I've always had the writer's bug, if you will. I've wanted to write and be a writer and an author for a very, very long time. When I listen to a lot of interviews with different authors, that is kind of a consistent theme that I do see pop up. Every now and then you'll get an author that maybe just randomly decided to write one day and they really had no interest in writing before. But most of the time we've all started with this feeling of we want to put our words on paper. We just have this desire to write. And maybe some of us didn't realize that we could actually make this a living. Maybe some of you are like me and are super enthusiastic about making it your living, but maybe you're not there yet. So I want to speak to that today. In 2024, I published my first novel, Till the Cows Come Home. This wasn't my first book necessarily, but it was my first full-length novel that was actually published. I published the year before a small intro to gardening book called You Don't Have a Black Thumb. I am an independent author, so both of these I have went through all of the steps to publish on my own. It's not that I didn't get a traditional publishing deal. I never even tried to get one, and there are lots of reasons why. And this video is not really going to be about whether you should do traditional or self-publishing and independent publishing. That's another topic for another video. So I have two books that are published, but these aren't the first two books that I've ever written. And right now I am days away from hitting my target word goal for my next novel called The Rosarian. Days away. Of course, there's lots of editing to do and all of that, but I'm just really excited about it. I can see the finish line, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because it's so important for me to encourage others to cross that finish line. Because once you cross that finish line once, it's so much easier to do it again, and it goes faster and faster and faster. So The Rosarian will be my second novel that I'll be publishing, but just because it's my second novel that's published doesn't mean that it's actually the second novel that I've ever written. I have so many unfinished manuscripts that are in drawers and in Word documents on my computer, but I actually have another completed manuscript, so this will be my third completed novel in my lineup of books so far. But the first one was, first of all, years in the making. I began that novel at the age of 16, and I had to think about this for a minute, I am now 33 years old. And it took me from the age of 16 until 2022, so that was a couple years ago. Basically, till 30 to finish that manuscript. That was my problem all along. So I started seriously writing at 16. It took me from 2008 until 2022 to finally finish a novel. That is a long time. And I know many of us have it's the same story, right? We have the same issue all along. And I just think how many years that I wasted not sticking to my guns and finishing that book. And how many more could I have under my belt? Granted, in that time, I was an on and off thing. There were times where I wasn't writing. There was times where I was writing other things. But how much time did I essentially waste? I'm not going to say that I regret anything, but I kind of wasted that. That's something I would go back and change if I had to change something, right? I want to share the tips and tricks that I have learned along the way to help you get going. So my first novel, I ended up titling it something like What I Didn't Say. I'm not really sure if I ever get around to publishing that, if that's what the title will be, but we'll just stick with that. Came in at about 125,000 words. There was lots of deleted scenes in there. There was lots that I could have added or taken out. So that's just how the manuscript ended when I sent it to an editor. My last novel, Till the Cows Come Home, came in at about a little over 90,000 words. And this novel that I'm working on currently, I'm almost to the 80,000 word mark. That was my target goal. I know it's probably gonna be around that when it's done because I still have to edit it, but I have a lot of other scenes that I need to add as well. For reference, the first novel obviously took me a long time to write, basically 15 years to write. My second novel, it took me about 2 years to start that one to start and finish it. And then this one I started in late January 2025, and it is now the end of August 2025. So you can see how much faster things have went. So I've definitely learned some things along the way. So the first thing I want to speak to is the most important thing that I've learned is that you just have to finish. That was my difficulty with the first novel, is I didn't really have an ending point. Obviously, I knew it was a romance, so I knew that the two people needed to be together. So I had an ending point there, but I didn't even really have a clear structure of how we were going to get there necessarily. And so I do think that's why it took me so long. I also added in all of these other side stories. So what happened was I would start writing and then I would go back and edit, and then I would start writing and then I would go back and edit, and then I would start writing and go back and edit that. And then the story would change up front, so then I'd have to change it here, and then I was just constantly doing this back and forth of editing, changing, and whatnot. In my second novel, I did a similar thing. I wrote till I hit about 20,000 words, and I just hit a point where and the 20,000 words came so quickly. It was so fun, so fast, and then I just hit a spot where I was just like, I don't know where I'm going with this. Again, I had sort of an ending point. I think this is the problem when you are a pantser versus a plotter. So if you don't know what that means, if you're new to that terminology, if you are a person that has to have an outline and you outline everything before you write, you may deviate a little bit, but you pretty much stick to the outline, then you are what's considered a plotter. If you have no idea what's going on and you just sit down to write and you discover things as you go, discover the story, then you are a pantser. You're a fly by the seat of the pants writer. You're a discovery writer. And a lot of us are one or the other, but there's also hybrids, right? And so I would say I lean mostly towards being a pantser, but I have had to pull in some of the plotting in order to keep myself organized enough to get done. And that's kind of what I'm saying here. So the first step is that you just have to finish. It will be messy, it will be ugly, it will be so ugly. But the magic is in the editing. Say it with me again. The magic is in the editing. So much comes together in the editing phase. It is not even funny. And if you're constantly trying to go back and edit things as you go, you're never, I'm not going to say never because people do it, and I did it. But it is so much more difficult to finish the story because you're almost a little bit lost. You keep pulling at different threads and adding other threads, and it just gets so overwhelming. You have to just finish it, no matter how ugly it is or whatever. And no matter, even if you know that there's scenes that you need to add or delete or whatever, just finish it. The next thing that I will say that will help you with your success is to pick a target word count. So for me, I chose 80,000 words for this current novel because 80,000 is about the amount of words that most of these novels in that genre would be. There's different genre conventions. It doesn't mean that you can't go over or less, but a lot of like the mass market books that are out right now seem to be in the 50 to 60,000 word range, and then you have kind of like your standard novel is about 80,000 words, and then when you get into like fantasy and these epic tales and all of that, they can be over 100,000 words. So that's just a frame of reference. Again, my last novel came in about 92,000 words. It was a little bit more than a typical romance rom-com novel. I can't exactly place that book in just the rom-com category, but that's what I felt like it needed to be. I know there's things that I would change now, but that's where it ended up. But I didn't even have a target word count for that book, and so that did make it a little bit harder to finish. Whereas this book, I've had a target word count, and I was able to set up like a spreadsheet and just check off and track my progress the entire time. And because I was able to track that progress, it made me push through the really difficult parts of the book. For example, in the middle of the book, when you're just not inspired and you don't, what I call the doldrums of the book, you will reach that point. It is the muddled middle where you have to keep going. And so what helped me keep going was just looking at that word count. I wanted to chip away at it every day, and that helped me so much. And it's not to say that I followed it perfectly, but on the days when I wrote more than my 1,200 words a day goal, it was amazing. I felt so good. And then the days where I didn't write as much, I was like, okay, tomorrow I gotta buckle down. Have a target word count. It helps you get the story complete. And the third thing I will say is to have a target date of when you want to finish the book. If you don't have a very hard target date, you're less likely to finish it. If you are of the personality like I am anyways. I am constantly a person that's just not super self-motivated. I get shiny object syndrome. I get too many of these things in my mind. And so I really, really need to have a hard and fast date where like, this is it. I have to have it done by this time. And having someone to hold you accountable will really help that. I have my husband, but he is very good at keeping me accountable, but at the same time, I can talk him out of certain things as well. It's something I've noticed. So I have to be very aware of that and make sure that when I'm complaining or I'm down and I'm feeling like I'm not going to hit my goal, that I don't talk him out of keeping me accountable, if that makes sense. So, for example, I still am worried about publishing this novel by the end of November, which was my goal. Just because it is a historical novel, so I want to get all the facts straight, and I feel like in the editing phase I might get bogged down with some of that research. Like, I've done some research along the way, but I know that there's gaps that I need to fill, and I'm afraid that I'm not going to do the story justice properly. And something he said to me the other day was like, no, you have to have this book out by Christmas. You have to. You can't, no bones about it. It needs to be out before Christmas. That's when you would get more sales then, and people are more excited then. If you push this off, we're going to regret it. You've got to get it done before Christmas. So that has really, I made my goal to finish the book by August 31st. So we're approaching that right now as I'm recording this, so that I have enough time to edit it and get all of the other stuff together. So I'm really not worried about like the book cover and the blurbs and all of that stuff, because I can do that within a couple days, to be honest. But it's all of the finessing and the editing that I'm worried about not getting done. So my goal is to hopefully get that done quickly, but having that date is very key to that. And the fourth thing I'll say is just protecting your sacred writing time. Everybody says the key is just butt in chair writing, and if you don't set aside that time each day, you won't do it. If I don't make it a point to get up before my children are up in the morning, I don't get it done. I don't get it done in the afternoon. I don't get it done in the evening. Sometimes I might feel inspired. And of course, when you're finishing a book, there's like kind of this frenzy that happens where you can write so much. But if you don't protect your writing time and take it seriously, like a job, it's not going to happen. And I don't want to be one of those people that it's all or nothing, but like that really has made a difference in me being able to finish this book as quickly as I have. It's not even quick compared to how fast some other authors can write. Carve out that time, get up a little bit earlier, stay up a little bit later. Many of us are so busy. We have jobs, we have kids, we have husbands, wives, we have all of these other things demanding our attention. And no, if you publish this novel, if you finish this novel, it may not change your life in this super huge, profound way, but it may just do that as well. When I published my gardening book, that's what that whole thing was about. And I apologize for the airplanes that you can hear. I have bought way too many cheap microphones on Amazon that don't work, and so that's why you can hear wind and airplanes right now. But if I sell more books, maybe I can purchase a better microphone. Just as if you're a gardener, if you're a newbie gardener and you want to learn how to grow beautiful plants, it all stems to your priorities. In my book, I talk a lot about how I killed so many plants, but I also grew so many beautiful plants as well. So you have to have the good and the bad. It's just the fact that you're doing it. The fact that you're actually doing it is huge. And that's what makes the difference. So I know we always, it's not always about the end result. It's about the journey along the way, right? So if you're in the right mindset, you can accomplish so many things. If you're able to prioritize things, you can accomplish so much. And so that's the same with writing. If you are making your writing a priority, it doesn't mean that you put writing above your kids or something like that. But if you are really genuine about protecting that sacred time and establishing the goals and hitting the goals, and if you get knocked down, you get back up again, and you just keep going towards the finish line, then you'll finish it. You will finish the novel. And if you follow all of these steps and you don't finish the novel, I would be shocked. How bad do you want it, basically? How bad do you want it? So let this video be an encouragement to you. Really sit down and reflect and think on, what do you really want? Do you really want to finish this novel? Well, then you got to put in the work to do it. And I see so many writers online that complain about their life. They have all of these things. They have to work their job, responsibilities that mount up, and it's, how are they ever going to do it? And how do we compete with AI? And how do we compete with all these other people that are churning out books left and right? You can sit there and you can whine and you can just have a little sob story about it, or you can do something about it. And will you regret doing something? I don't think so. I really want this to be an encouragement for those of you that have been afraid to start a novel, or and it doesn't even have to be a novel, it could be a nonfiction book. Whatever, if you're afraid to start your book, I want this to be an encouragement to you. So set your goals, write them down, keep track of your progress, tell a friend, and sit your butt in that chair and type right away. So if this video helped you in any way, please, please, please share it with a friend, send it on to someone. Let me know if you've kind of followed this framework before and how it's worked for you, or maybe let me know where it's failed you in some way. And you can stick around here by hitting subscribe. Would greatly appreciate it. And you can argue with me until the cows come home, pun intended. But I know in my heart of hearts that if you follow these steps, you can do it. So get your butt in the chair and start writing.